Hello and welcome everyone to the third installment, the last installment of the LA Conservation Corps' inaugural speakers series presented by Boeing. For those of you who don't know, my name is Wendy Butts and I am the CEO here at the LA Conservation Corps. This has been a really interesting and thought-provoking series of conversations so far over these last couple weeks, as we've tried to illuminate for attendees all of the Corps' experience over the last 7 months and what we are thinking about as we are developing programs and taking on new projects for our Corps members during a pandemic. We've been trying to talk about resilience and finding the hope to keep pushing for change and opportunity. And today we are going to get to the heart of that matter, so to speak, as we talk about health and mental health care for young adults. I think all of us have learned in some way or another since the onset of the pandemic that we cannot care for one another if we aren't caring for ourselves. But we've also seen that there are huge injustices and broken spots in the system, and young people of color are suffering in unique and challenging ways. Our Latinx and Black Corps members here are part of LA's and the nation's populations hit hardest by the pandemic. Both economically, some of our Corps members are the only ones in their families who are earning a paycheck right now, and as a result of the social injustice that plagues people of color in general. So just a quick note, housekeeping note, we invite you to type questions into the Q&A box as we go along, and we will get to as many of those as we can in the latter part of our hour together today. So let me start by introducing our panelists. We are very honored to have Assemblywoman Luz Rivas with us today. Assemblywoman Rivas was born in Los Angeles to an immigrant family, grew up in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, and she grew up in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. She attended LA Unified Schools and participated in the Corps' Clean and Green program during her middle school years. She went on to high school and then to college, earning a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from MIT and a master's of education from Harvard. Luz has built her career at the intersection of engineering, education, and public service. She worked as an electrical design engineer at Motorola before founding DIY Girls, a nonprofit that provides enrichment programs focused on encouraging young girls to pursue careers in science, engineering, and technology. While presiding over DIY Girls, she served as a Champions Board member of the California Girls in STEM Collaborative, as a senior fellow at the USC Marshall Brittingham Social Enterprise Lab, on the visiting committee for the MIT Dean of Undergraduate Studies, and as a service learning instructor for engineering undergraduates at USC. In 2016, she was appointed by Mayor Eric Garcetti to the Los Angeles Board of Public Works, and that's where I was reintroduced to Luz. Luz was elected and sworn in to the California State Assembly in June of 2018. And earlier this year, she authored AB 1578 to convert school pavement to parks through grants to school districts, county offices of education, or charter schools, maintaining schools in disadvantaged low-income communities. Her work seeks to ensure healthy environments for all of us. On a personal note, Luz always takes our meetings in person, which is not always the case with her peers in the Assembly and Senate, and she has a real genuine interest in the Corps, our Corps members, and the good work they're doing in her district and throughout the greater LA area. She is definitely a trusted resource for me and for other Corps at the Capitol, and we are really honored that you're here with us today, Assemblywoman.
Thank you, thank you.
Next, we have Love Jefferson, CEO and founder of A1 Adventures. Love was born in Los Angeles of an African-American father and an American Samoan immigrant mother. As a teenager, Love showed great promise as a football player, which led him to being offered scholarships at 5 different colleges. Encouraged by his entrepreneurial father to go into business, Love chose Washington State University because of the excellent program at the Carson School of Business. He would later decide to change his major to sociology, psychology, and economics. And by his junior year, Sports Illustrated had named him among the top 10 players at his position in the country. As a first-generation college student, Love did earn his bachelor's degree, a Pac-10 championship, and a Rose Bowl appearance in 1998. Love's success on the football field caught the eye of the NFL, and in 1999, he joined the Chicago Bears as offensive tight end. All set for a career in professional football, Love was devastated when injury forced early retirement from the game and led to a rethink of his career. Because of his passion for people, he found his true position in the field of building individuals' leadership capacity through team building workshop trainings. In recent years, Love has provided team building and leadership training sessions focused on emotional intelligence for many organizations and companies. Today, his training focus is geared towards supporting young professionals, educators, students, and parents in increasing self-confidence, a sense of belonging, and the self-belief that achieving success is possible. I know Love from his days with Fulcrum Learning Systems, when he provided our staff and core members with team building and leadership development ropes courses as part of their core experiences. And I've heard only good things about his recent work with our local core counterpart in San Jose, the San Jose Conservation Corps and Charter School. We're really glad you're with us today, Love.
Thank you.
Finally, I am very happy to introduce Stephanie Renteria, who is a core member at our East LA site. Stephanie spends most of her time in the office, but she is an active member of the site's leadership council and is currently a student at Cal State LA. Stephanie is always open to a chat when I stop by, and she's working towards some really awesome goals. So I'm excited for you all to get to know her a little bit like I have while she's with us today this afternoon. So I'd like to start with you, Stephanie, so you can help set the stage for us for our discussion. How are you doing today?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Great. So tell us all why you joined the Corps and how long you've been with us.
I joined the Corps because one, I needed to be able to provide for my daughter who is now 3. And I also joined because I've heard of the scholarships and other financial support services. I've been a Corps member since April of 2019.
Great. What's it like to keep coming to work during the time of the pandemic? How has it made you feel? And how has it affected your well-being and what you have seen in other Corps members?
It has affected me because my daughter's daycare shut down for 3 months and I didn't have a childcare provider. So I would have to leave her with relatives or friends, and then I would come to work stressed out, thinking if she was in good hands. Finally, they reopened the daycare, but we were told that if a teacher or any other children get infected, then they would have to shut down again. So I still have that fear that I have to leave her with friends or relatives.
And how have you seen it manifest with other Corps members? How are they handling this situation?
I've seen it with other Corps members as well for childcare. I've met other females that don't have anyone to take care of their children. I see other Corps members struggling commuting because most commute on the bus. So there's also fear there that they could come into contact with someone that has the virus while using the transportation from the city.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll come back to all of that in a moment. So Assemblywoman, when you hear from a young woman like Stephanie, what comes to mind? What concerns do you have about the effects in general of the pandemic on young adults and youth of color in Los Angeles, and specifically when you think about their health and well-being?
First, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, LA Conservation Corps. I'm very excited to be part of this panel today. When I hear from a young woman like Stephanie, what comes to mind is how the pandemic has made it hard or harder for families to pay rent, to pay all of their bills. Stephanie mentioned the unstable childcare because of the pandemic. There's just, that is what I think of, how people that may already have been struggling even before COVID-19, and now with this pandemic, things are getting much harder. And so I think of their mental health, right? Because if they're struggling and they were, already working towards making sure that they're getting ahead in life, that they're working towards their career and supporting their families, and now potentially thinking that maybe this isn't possible right now, and that this pandemic is never ending. I think when it began in March, we kept thinking, okay, by the summer, everything will be back to normal. And now I don't know what normal is going to look like, and we are just waiting for a vaccine and for the economy to get better. And those are the things I think of, just the people that were already living paycheck to paycheck, and that potentially now are having more issues providing for their families. I think of people that may get evicted. We already have a significant homeless population in LA County, and the pandemic may be driving more people to homelessness. And, that is an issue that I have been working on in the legislature. I'm very concerned, especially about the rise of youth homelessness in our city and in our county.
And we are very well aware of all of your work in that area. Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. And we'll come back to what you're doing for us at the state level on all of this. But I want to ask Love a question. Tell us a little bit about your program and about your 3 S's and how you see this unbelievable time we are living affecting young people's abilities to deal with them.
Sure. First of all, thank you. Thank you all for allowing me to participate in this discussion. I feel very honored to talk about these very important topics that's affecting us all. Our young people are, they're the future, and so the programs that we focus on the individual and that source that's inside of them, that there is something that someone had said to me at one point in time in my life that turned the light on for me. And that's how I was able to move through life. I think we all have these mentors or someone that has crossed our path that has left us with something. And then I think about, what were the things that allowed me to connect with that person? Our programs are really focused on relationships and relationship building and understanding that not everyone is the same. We're all different types of people, and we can create understanding through understanding frameworks that have already been out there that just people in our communities, myself, included, for sure I know this, I didn't know about it. I had no access to it, and people weren't talking to me about it until I later on discovered it in life. And it all came down to these 3 S's that we focus on. And the first S is safety. Safety is critical. Physical safety and emotional safety. I always use this joke, like if we're on this panel right here and we're talking and we're having a discussion and all of a sudden an earthquake happens, and everything's shaking, boom, we're done, we're out. All the screens go down, it's all black. It's like, it's important, but it's not as important as our physical safety. And so putting ourselves and understanding that putting ourselves in a physically safe place can allow us to engage a lot more with a lot more ease. And I think on the flip side, on the emotional side, is the emotional safety. Putting ourselves in a place where we feel emotionally safe, we feel emotionally cared for. The person that is talking to me or is sharing some wisdom or is giving me information, I can tell that I can feel safe and comfortable with that person. And so when we feel physically safe and emotionally safe, we can show up a little bit differently. And I think that's the first S. The second is support. Being able to receive support, but better yet, more importantly, being able to ask for support or ask for help when needed. And I just think about, I study a lot of just successful people, and everyone has done it with some sort of support. And I think the way that we tend to grow up is like, do it on your own, take care of it, we'll handle it, responsibility. And yes, that's all true, but there comes to a point where it's like, I need a little bit of help. And if we don't know how to ask for support or receive the support, then it's really difficult for us to get to where we want to be. And there are a lot of people like us on the screen who are here to support people, right? We're right in front of each and every core member every single day, just saying, ask me for what you need. I can support you. I just need you to do the work and stepping forward to ask for it. And then the last S is the sense of belonging. You know, a place where people feel like they belong. They feel like they're welcome. And so in working with the cores, that's the cultural piece that I try to bring forward. Is like, as a culture, through the door, through orientation, through job training, when you're meeting people for the first time, let them believe that you will be safe, you will have support, and you belong here. And once they feel like they belong, they tend to show up. And then when they show up, then we take care of them in the way that we lead. I'm a big follower of Simon Sinek, and he's a great speaker. And he had this quote that just floated around the past few weeks, where leadership is not being in charge, but it's about taking care of those in our charge, right? Taking care of those in our charge. That's leadership. I'm like, I'm signing up with you, Simon. You know, that's the mentality. That's the idea that we can teach our young people as they're moving through these programs and these times, in order to have that long, infinite gain success that is out there for them. And so 3 S's are the things that I was always looking for. And it seems to resonate with a lot of people. And so I think it's part of a human desire that's in there. And I always take it back to Maslow. If we don't feel safe at the very top, or the bottom, if we don't feel safe, nothing else matters. And so creating that safe environment, or that safe feeling, is really what will allow us to connect and help those that are in need of a little support.
Thank you. Yeah, that brought a little tear to my eye. Thank you. Obviously moving. So Assemblywoman, what progress have we made, and what work do we still need to be doing to create better health and mental health outcomes for young people of color? Tell us maybe a little bit about your recent legislation and how healthy communities can strengthen healthy individuals.
Sure. You know, I think we've seen a shift to a more holistic approach to health in recent years. In the last decade or so, there's been conversations about mental health, and they have become a lot healthier, right? You know, I think when I was young, we didn't talk much about mental health and the need to ask for help. You know, I was thinking of when Love was mentioning, you know, the support that a lot of young people need. And it took me back to when I was young, that, you know, sometimes I didn't know how to ask for help. And I didn't know what support services were available to me. And I think our society now has changed, and recently, you know, now we require health plans to cover mental health services. And I think the message is getting out there better to our young people. But yet we still have a long way to go. You know, we need to continue to work on destigmatizing mental health. You know, I come from, you know, a very traditional Mexican family, a lot of Latino families. It's not always in our culture to get mental health help, right? And you know, my family or parents have never encouraged it. And I think that is something that is still happening in our communities. I'm sure lots of communities, not just Latino communities, but you know, we need to get to the parents and to the youth and make sure that they access these services, and you know, and additionally, you know, we need to make sure, especially in California, that the healthcare providers for these mental health services are culturally competent, And of course, linguistically, you know, like I mentioned, you know, my family is Spanish speaking. There's lots of languages spoken in California. And that way we're making mental health accessible to all.
Did you want to share anything about your recent legislation about healthy communities and how that strengthens healthy individuals? Any particular pieces of it?
Sure, like you mentioned, you know, you know, the pavement to parks, you know, a lot of us grow up, like all of my schools were right by freeways, right? Like my playground faced a freeway in elementary school, in middle school, and in high school. And, you know, that's the air quality we're breathing. You know, I grew up with lots of people that had asthma, that missed lots of days of school because of that. And it's because we don't have enough trees, we don't have enough green space. You know, and lately I was reading a lot about how you feel, how being in green space really helps your mental health, right? Like most of us, when we go out for a hike, or, you know, to some type of park, like we don't have very many state parks very close. You know, I'm from the San Fernando Valley, but we do have some spaces where we can go, take a walk, go on a hike with friends, and it really helps our health. But unfortunately, a lot of people live in apartments. They don't have access to a yard or any type of their own, you know, anything where kids can go out to play. So I thought, why don't we convert, you know, these playgrounds that are just like this concrete at every school has this, and make green space there, right? So that during the day, during recess, during lunch, after school, any young person in Los Angeles or in our state will have access to trees and green space, and therefore, you know, it'll be healthier. You know, like you said, create a healthy community. This has been done in New York. There's been some amazing conversions in New York City. As you can imagine, New York is very urban, very dense. You know, not that many parks in some areas of the city. And the schools have turned into that green space.
Well, if that passes, we are right there with you to get the work done. So,
of course, yes.
So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about what you're studying in school and the career path that you have chosen.
Yes, so I am studying at Cal State LA. My major is rehabilitation services, and that is working with individual disabilities. And what was the other question?
Why you chose that career path?
Oh, I chose that career path because I have a brother who was diagnosed with schizophrenia about 5 years ago. So that motivated me to help other individuals.
Why do you think mental health care is important?
I think it's important because it reduces the harm to oneself. It also helps individuals become resilient and be able to recover.
Yes, I agree. What do you think are the biggest changes you've seen in yourself since you joined the Corps?
Since I joined the Corps, I've learned a lot from my supervisors, and I noticed that I became more responsible and my business skills improved as well.
What does responsible mean to you? How have you become more responsible?
By showing up on time, showing up every day. Also, I think time management was a huge thing for me. So I've learned how to manage my time, use my agenda on a daily for work and for school. So that's what responsible means to me.
That's great. Thank you. And I know you're participating in the county's Careers for a Cause program. Will you tell us a little bit about that and what you hope to achieve now that you've completed it?
I hope to get hired through one of the agencies that I really liked, which is Hopix, because they work with the homeless population out in South LA. And
the program, Careers for a Cause, they're specifically focused on what types of jobs? Social services? What
Yes,
kind?
working with the homeless population.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how did you, was that something you heard about and you said, I want to do that, or why, how did you find that?
Yes, because I wanted to know, I do know I want to work with youth. I just don't know exactly what ages, if it's going to be 13 to 18 or transitional or young adults. So I wanted to get a feel of what it is to work with the homeless population, because I am also considering working with military veterans. So, so youth at risk and military veterans is my two interests, but I also wanted to know a little bit more about the homeless population.
That's awesome. I mean, that's one of the things obviously we try to do with all of our core members is instill that idea that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do and to try different things. So you're exemplifying that very well for us. Thank you. Love, I know you know that the core is a job training program, but at its heart, it's all about building trust and confidence. So talk to us about the importance of experiencing those kinds of changes.
You know, I just keep thinking about Stephanie right now. I heard the question and I will get to the question,
Okay.
but I just think about how, you know, showing up on time, using your agenda, you know, doing these things, these small wins, like you have to pat yourself on the back. You know, each time you create those small wins, getting up every morning, pat yourself on the back, you know, getting your things, planning the night before, pat yourself on the back. Once you recognize all of your small wins, then they become normal, they become a habit, and then you keep going for other small wins. You know, it reminds me of that speech that was given by, I think he was a commander who helped capture or led the thing that captured Osama bin Laden. And he gave this great speech about, you know, the first win of the day is making your bed, you know, and no matter what, if you have the worst day possible, if everything just goes left for you, worst case scenario is you get to come home to a comfortable bed, right? And so it's looking for those wins, you know, and patting yourself on the back, winning. Like right now, you're winning. Look at what you're doing. You're winning, right? And so moving through each and every opportunity with the confidence, knowing what you're going to do, and perhaps it may change. You're winning, right? And so doing that and recognizing that and bringing that to the forefront each and every day, I think is important. I think we need to recognize our wins. We need to recognize what happens to us when we feel or we do or accomplish a certain thing. What is the feeling? What is the emotional feeling? Creating that self-awareness about it. And I think trust and all these things come through that. Once you're able to reflect and see what's happening with you, what's driving you, then you can see the impact that it has with people that are in your company or in your environment. And so I just feel inspired by it, you know, and that's the thing. I'm sitting here feeling inspired. And you do that, and that's who you are. You know, that's who you are. To me, at least, you know, that's my truth for you. And there's someone out there, and there's probably some other people viewing this right now that are feeling the same way. So small wins lead to the big win in the game. So play the big game by having those small wins. And I was also thinking about, you know, the outdoor green space that Assemblywoman was talking about. You know, the green space is so important because nature is important, staying connected. I think that's why a lot of our young people connect with the core, like working outdoors and being on the road or touching a tree or planting a tree, because there's something that happens, you know, and usually what's happening is all happening in our minds. And we're talking about mental health and, you know, the hormonal balance or imbalance, you know, and a lot of us grow up in stressful environments, right? Where, you know, you're growing up in a very stressful fight or flight type situation from a young child. And so there's a lot of cortisol and adrenaline that's playing that has you showing up in the world with cortisol and adrenaline. And it's not until you feel safe, supported, and have a sense of belonging that you can feel that sense of serotonin or dopamine that looking out at the moon, you know, when you catch it in that moment gives you, or looking at a sunset, it catches and it gives you. And so it's finding those things that allow for us to understand that it's happening in here to all of us, right? To all of us, we're not alone. And once we know that it exists, then we can do something with that. And if there's somebody who is giving me this information, right, that I believe I feel safe with, and they support me and I belong here, then I think I can trust you. Because growing up in an environment where it's really hard and you have to survive, trust is hard to come by. And we have to know that trust has two sides to it. It's the person who's giving it, but it's also, the power is here, because I will only trust someone who shows me to be trustworthy. So you have to show me something. Then I'll give you my trust. And when you know how to choose those people, when you know how to see these type of people, then you can create a community, or you can create an environment, you can create a team, you can create a tribe, you can create whatever it is, because you know how to read what it is that you're looking for. And I think that's what is very important. And I work very hard trying to get people to understand that it's simpler than you think. You have to just spend a little bit more mirror time. You know, what do you feel? You know, what are you thinking? How is that influencing your behavior? What are your results? Do you like it, or would you like to change it? What can you do? I don't know. Okay, maybe you need to ask for some help. Here's my number. You know, and young people and people in general tend to connect with that. So I'm really huge on working from the heart out, right? So working from the why inside. Why do you do what you do? Why do you wake up? What's the reason? Not the money. The money's an end result. Why? Oh, because I want to take care of my family. Why is that important? Oh, because my family always take care of me and I'm so privileged. Okay, so now that they've done that for you, why do you feel it's your responsibility? I feel it's my responsibility. And then you just go down these chains of why. Write those things down, and then learn what your why is and live your why. You don't have to say it, but people will feel your why. And if they ask you, then maybe you'll be able to share that with folks.
Love, you said something to Erica and me earlier this week that has stuck with me since you said it. And I was hoping you could share with the audience what you mean by it. And that is, relationships grow when you learn something.
Yes. So relationships grow when you learn something. And this is something that I feel is important. Relationships have two components. Okay. And these are the components you should look for in each relationship. We have familial relationships, and those are things that can't really be severed, but the amount of time that we spend with people, you know, we should look at the amount of time we should spend and have relationships with people that help us grow. So the two components, I believe, is knowledge, right? So I am in a relationship with somebody because they teach me something, right? My supervisor, he teaches me something, right? Or she teaches me something, and I teach them something. So it becomes a reciprocal thing. I'm in a relationship with someone. Every time we get together, if I have a choice, I'm going to go with the friend that listens to me and also adds to me, right? And then the second component is connection. I have to feel connected in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we have a similar upbringing. Maybe we have a similar why, or maybe it is that we're on a similar mission, you know, to further our lives. And so the connection needs to be there in order for the relationship to work. But I think you can have relationships with connection, no knowledge. Do you spend your much time, or as much, would you choose to spend more time with somebody you just feel connected or loyal to? Or would you spend that time with people that you're connected with, that exchange knowledge with you, and that are looking for your knowledge? Because I believe that everyone has something. And even in trainings, I would tell supervisors, like, hey, you know, give knowledge, but at the same time, ask your students to teach you something. Oh, I'm not sure what they can teach me. Well, just hand them a phone, and I'm sure they'll be able to teach you something, right? Just hand them a phone, say, show me something I don't know. They'll be like, what, mister? And they'll then try to create that connection. And once you're starting to work with people, trying to get knowledge from them, like, hey, I want you to teach me something. I want you to show me something. Then they feel good about it. I'm teaching someone. It feels connected. And then you're able to then reciprocate that and teach them. So I believe relationships are about learning and connection, and knowledge is important from my point of view. And that's just something that I live by, that I see as being valuable. So I just share it.
Thank you. Thank you. Assemblywoman, as a former Corps member, what are your hopes for this generation? And what do you want to say to give young people today hope?
So I participated in Clean and Green, right after middle school. So I was entering high school. I was 14, very excited to work. I had never planted a tree or, cleaned up my community. It was more about, I want to work. I want to go to work every day and pack my lunch the night before, all the things that you have to prepare to go to work. And that was my first time doing that. And it was a great experience. And, I got to, I'm from the East San Fernando Valley, Pacoima. So we were all over the area at different sites. It was very hot though, as a lot of you may know, the San Fernando Valley is very hot in the summer. And we were out there in our uniforms, helmets, getting the work done. And for me, I had to work. I grew up with a single mother here in the San Fernando Valley, and she was barely making enough money just to make sure we have some place to live, right? And she provided us food. But as we got older, we want different shoes, different clothes, we want to participate in extracurricular activities, and those are things that my mom could not afford. And so a lot of the money that I made that summer as a Corps member, I used it in my first year of high school. I had a new outfit to wear. I could participate in some activities that required a fee, right? I bought my yearbook that year. Things like that, where, I learned to become more independent. And, I think when I think of this generation, I hope that they're getting valuable experiences right now to where they can explore their interests, right? Where they can learn about their own community, where they can help their family if that's something they care about. They could provide for themselves and feel proud of it. Sometimes I feel we don't have enough of these opportunities for young people. And they want them. They want to belong. They, like Love says, they want to belong to something. These are the transformative years of youth development, where they're no longer children, they're now young people getting ready to enter adulthood and to learn what it's like to have those responsibilities. I hope that our generation is healthy, especially around mental health, and that they're better than us in terms of seeking help. Like I said, a lot of people in my generation, we didn't know that there was help for us. We didn't know what this meant. We didn't talk about it as much as people do today. And I see it in young people. I see the difference. And I think our country, the world is going to be much better off with this generation.
Thank you. Thank you. So Stephanie, I want you to respond to that a little bit, but do you think there's still a fear with people your age about getting help with mental health, or are people getting more comfortable with it?
I think there's still people my age that are embarrassed to reach out for help.
What would you tell people to make them feel a little bit better about asking for help?
That it's okay to release, like if you're having a bad day and you don't want to talk about it to like your family or your close friends because you feel like they're going to judge you, going to a therapist, I think, is one of the best things I've done, because I do see a therapist, and it's someone that you don't know, It's not someone you're gonna go home to and they're gonna judge you. It's not a close friend, so if it is a secret, it's okay to tell the therapist. And I just feel like there's a lot of youth that are embarrassed to reach out for help because they feel like they're gonna be judged.
Yeah, it's not just youth, it's us older people too. Thank you. You're such an inspiration. So I want to ask each of you as we close my formal session, and then we can open it up to some audience questions. So I'll start with you, Stephanie. How are you staying physically and mentally strong during this time?
Well, physically, uh, I'm usually home doing homework, and my daughter's there with me, so I'm not really out unless I have to go to the market or doctor appointments. Mentally, well, I try to go for runs because I live close to a riverbed. So I'll take my daughter with me, and we're both out there walking. Sometimes we run. That's how I try to stay healthy. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm a runner too, so I know the power of a thoughtful run. You know, how much good thinking you can get done. It's not as easy with a kid, but
Yeah. We have to stop and take a water break.
yeah.
Yeah.
Luce, how would you answer that question?
So I've been also running and walking. You know, I live close to like a bike path, which I also ride my bike. And I'm very fortunate to have like this small like bike path kind of green space near me that I can use. So I ride my bike. Indoors, physically, I have an app, like a Nike workout app, you know, that someone recommended. And I do some of the workouts here at home, you know, guided by my phone is propped up and I'm just following the trainer, you know, with the workout. I try to do that as much as I can. And I feel like it helps, you know, because my days are full of meetings. You know, it is stressful thinking about a lot of people and what they're going through in our state, a lot of Californians that are suffering through this pandemic. And so, but I still need to take care of myself, right? And I spend most of my day trying to take care of others, right? Make sure they're getting their unemployment checks, make sure they have food. We have a lot of, you know, food drives. We're working with community partners. And so those are the types of things that I do, you know, to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I have some close friends and mentors that I can talk to. And I try to do that too, so that, you know, I have someone outside of my work that I can talk to about how I'm feeling.
Great, thank you. And Love, how about you?
On the physical side, I don't have a choice because I have 3 little kids, so they're always wanting to jump out and hit the bikes or go around the block or Daddy, let's go for a walk. And so I always bring myself to just say yes and cut what I need to do in order to go and make that happen. So that's something that we continually do, or during their school break when I'm working, if I have a break, I'll go outside and play, like, you know, some team building games, or we'll go play tag down the street, you know, while they're on their lunch break for the hour, and we'll just run for their lunch break around the block, and then we'll come back home. And so that's something that we do. On the mental part, the headspace part, for myself, I lean to self-awareness, and I listen to my emotions a lot more. I listen to how I feel. And so I always share the definition of self-awareness, and I would feel bad if I left this meeting without sharing it. So it's the ability to accurately recognize your emotions, your thoughts, and your values, and how that influences and drives your behavior. That's right. Your ability to recognize your emotions, your thoughts, and your values, and how that drives your behavior. So when you're thinking about how you're feeling and what you're doing at that moment, what it's doing to you, then it's creating self-awareness. And so if I'm in a space where I get up and I'm just not feeling it, then I just tap into it and saying, okay, well, daddy needs a nap, or daddy needs to go sit, you know, in his chair in the backyard and not focus on anything for a minute until it shakes through. So it's kind of like my meditation. And at any time of the day, whenever it's needed for me, I make that time. And so I've been able to make it through this COVID situation because I'm sitting in it. You know, I want to sit in it. I want to sit in the stress and know what I'm thinking about, why the stress is present. Why am I stressed? Why am I feeling this way? And just have that silent conversation, or the worry. Why am I worried? And then I get to the root of the worry and the stress, and I feel good about myself, because then I say, I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. The world over is going through this at the same time. All right, so I take a deep breath, count my blessings, and then continue on with the day. And so anytime that something happens where I'm in some sort of mood, then I just tap into my body and my heart and how I'm feeling, and seeing how that's making me move or react. Take that time for myself. And it's been really helpful for me to find out who I am, you know, and what really drives me, that gets to my why, that helps me be a better person. And so that's how I've been able to manage pushing through all of this.
Great, thank you. I did want to invite everyone to drop a question into the Q&A, but I wanted to see if Stephanie, Love, or Assemblywoman, if you had questions for one another. If not, that's okay too.
Why do you do what you do?
Me?
Yes.
Both.
Okay.
Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do?
Just
That's a great question.
outside of everything else, like the why.
Yeah, I love what I get to do. I'm very fortunate that I was elected, that people in my community chose me, because I love this position. And despite, you know, it's busy and stressful and it's a lot of work, but I love it every day. Every day I wake up and I'm excited to do my work. And I think, you know, even when I was young, when I was, you know, preparing for a career and thinking what job is next or what am I going to do, I struggled a lot in my 20s on, am I doing what I really want to do in my life? And I just wanted to just love what I do every day, right? And I definitely am there. And I think whatever is next for me, that's how I'm going to, that's going to be the criteria, right? You know, like, is this what I want to be doing? I like, you know, making decisions and setting direction. And I'm now in a position that I can do that. It's a lot of fun. But like you said, something that I really agree with you, Love, is, you know, being in charge is taking care of everyone that you're in charge of. And I think of that every day. Am I doing enough for my team, for my constituents? And that requires, for me, to get a lot of personal and professional development. You know, I do a lot at night. I read a lot. I listen to podcasts on being a better leader, you know, taking care of my team, because without them, I'm not going to be able to implement anything that I want to do.
Right. Well, we're glad it's you.
Oh, thank you.
Stephanie, do you want to answer Love's question?
Yes. So I love what I do at work and at home and at school because I'm learning. Every day I learn something new, and I feel like learning about other individuals also helps with my development and helps me be able to know more, like have more knowledge of my brother's disability, and so that I could be able to help him and other individuals.
That's awesome. That's your superpower, your desire to learn. Like, everyone has it, you know, it's as unique as a fingerprint, and yours is your desire to learn. So just keep that on your chest. That's all.
How about you, Love?
What's
Why
that?
do you do? Why do you do what you do?
I was confused for so long, being identified as something else, which was an athlete, that I didn't know who I was, you know, what it was that made me tick. I do what I do because I feel like I have no other options. If I don't do this, if I don't just evangelize, if I don't just help, if I don't just share how I've been able to survive all these years, I don't know what else I could do. I'm sure I could do other things, you know, I'm smart. I can get, you know, I can do other things, right? But nothing that makes me like you feel as fulfilled. You know, when I get in front of a group and a session starts, I'm no longer a dad, I'm no longer a husband, I'm no longer, I'm nothing to anybody but a facilitator who's just caring and wanting to share some information. And I lose it, and then I lose time. I was like, wow, man, that hour was quick. We could have gone 30 more minutes, you know? And I believe I do it because I don't know what else I could do. You know?
Well, you are all very inspirational. This has been a really just heartwarming session for me. So any other questions? If not, I have an additional question for the Assemblywoman. All right, I will ask you.
Okay.
How would you encourage young people to get involved and share their concerns with leaders like you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I meet with a lot of young people. And first, I think every young person listening should know who represents them, you know, at the local level, depending on what city you live in. Like I live in the city of Los Angeles. I know who my city council member is. There are 15 city council members in Los Angeles. Do you know who your council member is if you live in the city of Los Angeles or wherever you live, all right, in the area? And we all have access to Google. You could just Google it. You can't just say, oh, I don't know. And there's no way I can find out. Like we didn't have the internet when I was a kid. So I really didn't know. And it was hard, right? And my mom didn't know either, right? Who represented us because she wasn't a US citizen yet, right? And so, you know, who is your state senator? Who is your assembly member, right? Who, do you know, I think most people know who the governor is, right? And I think your local representatives do a lot that affects you every day. You know, more than the president. You know, we all focus on the president of the United States, you know, definitely an important role, and we all know who that is. But your congress member, your state representatives are making decisions that affect you and your family and would like to hear from you. And they should. And so I get requests for meetings from young people. Sometimes they're in some type of advocacy group. Like recently, for example, I met with youth that are interested in criminal justice, right? Or and they are part of a group that sets up a meeting like this. So I had a Zoom call with a group of youth that told me their concerns with law enforcement, with incarceration. A lot of them were affected by that. And I just listened, right? And thought, okay, what can I do at the state level? Do we need to change a law, right? Because that's my job, right? To propose new ideas for laws. And a lot of the reasons that young people have some issues are sometimes we have some laws that are not helping young people. And so I have meetings, people write to me. So through my email address or on my website, there's a form if you have a concern, or if they're following a particular bill in the state legislature, sometimes they want to encourage me to vote yes or no on it. What my staff does is they tally, like you know, 100 people called or emailed you asking you to vote no on this, and this is why. And so I get those numbers. And so, you know, I don't get everybody's name, you know, if there's hundreds of people, right? But I know if they're constituents, if they live in my area, and what their position is, right? And that affects my vote, right? And maybe you think you're not making a difference, but if those 500 people didn't call me, maybe my vote would be different, right? And so that's another thing, another way to be in touch. You know, a lot of us offer internships in our offices for young people that want to learn more about public service. And that's how they start to get involved too. You know, they want to be more directly involved. I want to be in public service, or maybe they aspire to run for office in the future. You know, I've met a lot of young people, I want to run for Congress when I'm older. Can I start off by working in your office, right? Or helping you, volunteering with you. And so lots of different ways to engage with your elected representatives. And I really encourage, choose one in your area, right? And think about, how am I going to contact that representative this year, you know, on something that I care about. It's now with email, you can call, you know, so anything, there's lots of ways to get in touch, right? That we all have Facebook pages, right? Where people comment and they get upset at us, or they tell us that we're doing something good, something they like. I read them, you know, I'm on Facebook every day. I read what people have to say. I'm like, oh, people didn't like this, or people love this. I didn't even think they would, right? I mean, I had no idea. And now we get that daily instant feedback, which is from constituents. I don't have to wait till an election. And speaking of elections, another way to get engaged, if you are a US citizen, is to vote. A lot of young people are registered to vote, but they don't vote, right? This time in California, we all got a ballot in the mail, right? And it's easy, we just fill it out. You don't have to pay for a stamp, right? It's postage free. Or there are lots of drop boxes all over LA County, or all over California, I should say, that you can drop off the ballot. It's not that hard, right? And people say, well, I don't know what these judges are. And, you know, there's all these things that you have to vote for. It's not just president. You could do a research. It's not that much time, right? We all have a little bit of time. And I think we should dedicate our time. You know, I think of my family that wasn't able to vote. You know, my family are immigrants from Mexico. They weren't US citizens when I was growing up. I never went to the polls ever until I was 18 years old, right? And we didn't discuss elections at home. You know, I just watched some on TV when I was a kid, but I didn't know much about it until I became 18. And I have voted every election since I was 18. I think of, you know, my grandmother that wasn't able to vote. I think of women that were once not allowed to vote in our country at all, right? And it's only been 100 years that women have voted in our country. And they fought, they went to jail, they were hit, you know, lots of communities of color and are still getting their vote suppressed in some states. I mean, we watch the news and we see these long lines because they're not putting enough polls or, you know, places to go vote in communities where we live, where communities of color, because they don't want us to vote, right? Because if we vote, some people will lose, right? And I would stand in line for 5 hours if I had to vote. But I'm in California, so it's so easy. I got an envelope in the mail, I filled it out, put it in the post office, send it. So I really hope that young people take that seriously and engage by voting.
Great, thank you. That's a great way for us to wrap up. I know there's a lot of angst right now over what the next week and month is going to look like. We were just talking about that this morning. So the powerful thing we can all do is vote and hope that everybody else does and that we all accept what happens. But thank you to everyone who joined today. I know we've lost a few already, but a big thank you to the three of you, my esteemed panelists, for sharing your lunch hour with us and all of your great thinking and inspiration. We wanted to make our special thank you, provide a special thank you to our sponsors, Boeing, SoCal Gas, and Gallagher. And this was a new thing for us. We hope to be keeping up more conversations and getting some more of this going in the future. So thank you for being part of our experiment, and for today's discussion. It was really heartwarming, inspirational, and will keep us going here for this crazy month ahead. So
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you all.